So we're working on a new project today. We're trying to build a chicken tractor from a bunch of materials that we have sitting in this old tobacco barn. You can see behind me, we got piles of wood that was left over. From what I've been told, there was a shed on another part of the property that was torn down. And these are just pieces of it. I guess the majority of it was rotten, but this was stuff that was kept. So Joel Salatin, we actually visited his farm back in, it was in October. We went to the Homesteaders of America conference in Virginia, and we also, before that, we took a day and went to Joel Salatin's Polyface farm. So he has a book that he wrote called Pasture Poultry Profits, PPP, Pastured Poultry Profits. So that book shows how you can make money growing chickens on pasture, on grass, basically grass-fed chickens. And what he does is he puts them in these 10-foot by 12-foot pens, 2.5 feet tall. So we're going to see if we can scavenge up enough material to build one of these. It's probably not going to be quite as big, but it's going to be very similar. So let's get going. So we picked up a bunch of scrap parts, scrap material right here, and this is all stuff that was left over in the shed. So all we really should be needing on this, that roofing might not work, but all we should really need is the poultry netting to go around the sides, and then a portion of the top, which is like woven wire or a type of mesh, steel mesh. So that's what we'll need, and then hardware. So we may be able to build this thing for pretty cheap. So here we go, we're gonna start measuring it out. At this point, we're trying to find 3-inch wide boards that we can cut from these boards. A lot of these are 8 inches wide. They're 1 inch by 8 inch or 1 inch by 10 inch, and we're dividing them up. At some point here, we figure out that the saw's not gonna work. We had a battery operated saw, so we had to drag everything down closer to power. Sometime in the future, we do plan to run power up to the barn. It's about 200 feet away from the electrical panel. The roofing panels that we had in the barn weren't going to work out, and we ended up going with this other panels that we had in the shop. One of the neat things about doing a project like this and being on the homestead full time is to be able to have the kids around and help out. Not only are they helping out, they're learning how to do a lot of these things that are skills that they'll be able to use later in life. You can see on this board here, there's rotted areas. So this is a point where we're just ripping these boards down to 3-inch sections. And then we're starting to create what would be called the front, the back, and the center sections. These are, the whole chicken tractor is 2 feet tall. So we're kind of making the dimensions of the framework to fit the materials. So the reason it's 2 feet tall or 24 inches is because the chicken wire, the poultry wire that we have, is 2 feet tall. That's all part of this. And then we had to make the length, the overall length and width to match the roofing panels. So this is just some diagonal supports that we're putting on for the front and the back sections. So the front section will have a screened opening, and the back has sheet metal solid. So here we're connecting the side panels, so we're basically just connecting the front and the back sections together. We decided that it was best to move it before it got any heavier, so we dragged it over into a nice grassy area where we could place the chickens once we got this thing built out, and we continued. Next comes the checking for square, and then we found out we got a new subscriber. It is really exciting every time we get a new subscriber. We appreciate all of our subscribers. You make it worth it, and this dance was for you. So now we're putting in the center section. There's no netting or anything. It's not a divider. This is just for support. It stays open. I did go through at this point. You can see that I'm adding 2-inch screws, one 2-inch screw. Originally we used these 1 5/8" drywall screws that were a self-tapping screw, which is what Poultry Pasture Profits book, that's the screw that they said that they were using, but it just wasn't a long enough screw. We added a 1-inch strip to attach the chicken wire and the metal roofing material on the side.
Pretty fancy.
So now that the framework is done, we start adding the chicken wire fencing. This wraps around half of the enclosure. Like I said previously, it's 2 feet tall, and we decided to screw it down. If you have one of these metal cutoff wheels, it really does accelerate cutting these sheet metal panels. I've seen a lot of people cut it by hand with tin snips, but I do suggest and prefer the angle grinder with the metal cutoff tool. The panels we're using are 36 inches wide. We ended up trimming off the extra 1 foot to get down to the 24 inches. And we go ahead and add roofing material. The roofing material that we had was in lengths of 9.5 feet, so that ended up being our length. And then the width was the width of the 3 panels that were 3 foot wide, times 3 is 9 feet. So our overall length was 9.5 feet and the width was 9 feet, giving you roughly about 85 square feet of floor space for the chickens. The half roofing panel was left just screwed down on one side so that we could access that, and then we start building the access door, which is basically wooden framework with 1/2 inch hardware cloth. We screw this down to keep it nice and tight. The overall dimensions of that lift up door, access door there, is 56 inches by 36 inches. So your dimensions may be different if you're using different materials for covering. A lot of what we did is we had to kind of engineer it as we went along with the materials that we had. So now the kids are bringing out the chickens. So that's the chicken tractor. It puts the chicken out on grass in open air and in the sunlight where a chicken belongs, not cooped up in a commercial chicken house where it has to be pumped full of antibiotics just to keep it from dying. And we'll keep you guys up to date on the progress of these chickens. We have 33 chickens in here, and we're going to keep them moving on the grass. We thank you for watching this video. Please hit that like button. Keep these videos coming. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, and then if you hit the all notifications, you'll get every notification and see what we're doing. Thanks again for watching.